first year and third year. This year, I'm only in charge of second year and the third year grades. So let me talk a little bit about the idea, the concept behind this. First, start with a question. Can EFL students create quality graded readers? Well, of course, that answer is yes. The first year that I did it, I wasn't really sure how it would work out, but we spent a lot of time reading. At the time when I was doing the first writing that we did, we didn't have access, well, we didn't use X reading at the time. We were just reading small, the paper books for extensive reading. So we did a lot of reading, and then we also read some shorter novels. And then we would have discussion groups and things like that. And the students got really interested in it and how to write a story. So today I'm going to be talking about the methodology, the background, my approach to it, the timelines over the last couple of years that I've been doing it, and the results, and then what's going to be happening in the future. For me, again, extensive reading, it's incidental learning. Students they gain more vocabulary, and they gain it in a way that they don't, it's incidental learning. So they pick up words a lot faster, and they learn a lot more words, and they're interesting, they're having fun doing it. So their they gain fluency, and of course the reading speed increases. And over the years, we started with X reading, I guess, last year, and this is our second year using it. And especially with the junior high school third year girls, it's amazing how much they've gone from junior high school second year to junior high school third year. But that's something for a different topic. But they really like it, and I think it's working out really well. And then it seems like I get a lot of interest from students, mostly from junior high school, about this writing competition. I have some high school students as well, but it seems like I have a lot more interest coming from the junior high school students who spend more time with extensive reading in general. So also, why creative writing? I wanted to combine the two. So it gives them a chance to use personal expression, and I think it's meaningful output because it's their story, they're creating it. It's something that they're expressing their own words. It's not the practiced textbooks that they're always using. It's something that they've been able to, put their own ideas into thought. So there's a lot less rules, and I think it leads to increased motivation. And a lot of the students, they start off very hesitant, but they really, really do a lot as the process goes on. So about the curriculum at the time of the competition, it's changed now, but basically it was a 2-year supported curriculum that we were working on. So basically the first year was develop an interest in building the active reading skills. So I was in charge again, like I said, of high school. So at the time, between the last 2 school years when I was doing this competition, the first year was basically all set on creative writing output for the most part, 40% of it. Only a little bit of academic writing. We spent a lot of time with fiction. And then as they moved up to the second year of the curriculum, we spent more time with academic writing and less time in fiction and creative writing, basically warm-ups or just more or less fun ice-breaking type activities. Just at the beginning of class, we would do some creative writing stuff, just so they don't forget. But mostly moved to nonfiction writing or reading. So to start this, we read a lot, and in the program, we had tons of paperback, extensive readers, graded readers, and we had an English room filled with the books. We also have, we have crates and crates of them. So during some of the advanced classes, we would read some extensive reading, some graded readers, but we also did the regular books like Holes or some of the other type of novels that are relatively easy. Most of the students are advanced students in my class, but not all the participants in the contest or in the writing are advanced students. It's open to everyone. So we read a lot and we talk a lot of discussing, sorry. And I wanted the students to realize that reading was something it's a fun thing to do. And with fiction reading, I mean, it's interesting to a point, but I also think we need that, you know, we need that fantasy and that extra excitement to get students more interested, because if they're just reading like articles all the time, sometimes they can read the same stuff in the textbooks that they're using. So I tried to, I guess, balance both. So basically over the year, I would go through and teach literary elements such as character, setting, themes, plot, the importance of conflict, dialogue. During summer vacation, we did some collaborative writing activities where students would come up with short stories together in groups to get them ready for the next step in November. But it's not about just reading. It's also about like finding out what the message is in the books that they're reading. What's the story? They're basically learning to tear the books apart or pick the books apart. And by doing so, they're learning how to develop and think about these different ideas on their own as well. And they can put these into their own stories. So basically we would spend a chunk of time on character. Then after we move through character, we would move into setting. And then I would be bringing character and setting together. And then we just kind of building blocks. And then by the end, when it came to November, when we would start the competition, they knew all the different elements for the most part and how to use them and to identify them in the reading and to put it into their own writing. So the reason why I started doing this a couple years ago is because I wanted a good final project, but I wanted something to be fun and something to be enjoyable. You always hear like, let's write a research paper or something like that. But I wanted something a little bit different from that, especially for the high school first year students, because once they reach second year, that's when they're going to be doing the large, academic papers and things like that. So I wanted something a little bit fun that they would kind of get more, I guess, feel more confident in writing and using their English. So I was trying to think of what's the best way to, come up with a good final project to do that. And then that's what I came up with this. I was doing some research and reading around, and then I heard about the National Novel Writing Month, NaNoWriMo, that they do in the States. And now it's kind of moved outside of the States, but it's still pretty much US centered. But I think, again, like I said, it has gone outside as well. But I kind of wanted to do that. And I figured it was a perfect idea for a final project because it gets broken down into steps. They're learning a whole process. They're learning about how to get the ideas together, how to come up with a book, then how to edit, and then later they learn about the publishing process. So I figured it was like the perfect idea for a final project. And so that's why I started doing it. Oh, yeah. So when I mentioned that to the students, a lot of the students are very surprised. Like, what? We're going to be writing a book in 30 days? Are you insane? We can't do this. And I would love to hear the reactions and everyone be so surprised. But when it all came down to it, they did really, really good jobs in their work. And the ones who were the most, who felt that they would be not be able to do a good job at it actually did the most words, and did really, really good jobs at it. So I thought that was really, really neat. And just it gave them all a bit of confidence that they didn't have before, and they realized that they could do something like this. So the first time I did it was 2020. You'll see here it's October. We did drafting. So basically they came up with their ideas. I gave them some handouts and they came up, kind of got their ideas together, what they're going to be doing. It was kind of like a brainstorming session for that month. They weren't allowed to start writing anything until November. November 1st is when the students actually start writing. So they would write for 1 month. After that, then we went to the peer editing, and that was usually assigned as winter homework. And in class, they would taught basic peer editing, and they're all given kind of like a peer writing checklist that they're using for themselves and for their classmates. January, they did the self-editing and rewrites that they got back after winter vacation. February, we went into publication. The students really enjoyed the process, got a lot of good feedback from the students. The books have been, on the first year's books are still on ER Central, and they're still getting lots of downloads, and X reading as well. So between both, we've gotten hundreds of views on the books for the students, which is really, really nice. And every time I tell them that, I check and I just let them know how their book is doing, and they get kind of excited about it. And kind of like a little bit of shock. Wow, really? Type of thing. Some of the comments. This is from 2 years ago. Most of the girls didn't think they could do it, and then they did really, really well at the end. And a lot of the girls really enjoyed the process, and it kind of let them, I guess, pushing the barriers and doing more than what they think they can do. So lots of good feedback here. For last year as well, I did some surveys, and a lot of the students, a lot of positive feedback. They're really happy with the process. And again, it's generally the same. They don't think that they didn't know that they can do it. And that's what I'm going for. I want the girls to feel comfortable in English, have fun with it. And I want them to prove to themselves that they can do it. So this is from ER Central, the books from a couple years back that are there. Some writing samples. You can see here that they learn how to do dialogue and things like that pretty well. And since then, of course, there's even been more downloads and more readings. So especially this one here, I checked recently, and it's gone up it's gone up a lot, which is really, really, really happy to see, because this is one of my favorite books, and you can still see it on ER Central when you have some time. And there's going to be some additions to this too, and I'll kind of talk about that a little bit later as well. Okay, so the following year, this is when things got interesting, exciting. So the following year, we decided to roll it out to junior high school as well, for junior, because the first year it was only high school first year students were doing it. So we decided to roll it out to all students who are interested, and we kind of incorporated it into the junior high school third year curriculum for the advanced classes. And then with the X Reading Young Writers Competition, we were allowing any interested student to participate. Anyone at all who wanted to challenge this, indeed challenged it. And we had a lot of junior high school third year students show interest in this, which is really impressive. And again, not all the students are advanced students as well. So we had some students that are just the regular students who just have an interest in reading and wanted to challenge something like this. So with this year's, we changed a little bit to adapt the X Reading Young Writers competition with Paul. This worked out really, really well. And as he mentioned before, and maybe kind of, it's something that he envisioned. I mean, it's better coming from Paul this point on how he came across the idea for the X Reading competition. I don't know, Paul, if you want to add anything here. I don't want to throw you on the.
Yeah, oh, no problem. Just basically, like many things I had been thinking for, I had an idea. It would be great to have students write their own graded readers. Why not? And this was in my mind for years. No real way to operationalize it. I didn't know, I didn't have the time, the effort. I don't have students, and it just was always in the back of my mind. And then when I met Darin and he told me that he's doing a graded reader writing project already, I said, wow, let's collaborate. And maybe we could even, I'm a big believer in competition. I said, what are, as in a competition as a motivator for students. I said, what if we, if you have a graded reader writing project and we have a platform we can put them on, it already has a rating system so students could vote. We could make a competition out of it. Do you think, Darin, do you think that would motivate your students? And he seemed receptive to the idea. And we decided to work together. Although I should say that it was mostly, work together was my idea and Darin doing most of the work. But I greatly appreciate it. Is that what you needed, Darin? Is that?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, so just something that's, I thought it'd be great. And I figured it'd be another way to get more students interested, because usually a little bit of friendly competition usually helps. But also the way I set everything up, I told the participants and the girls that it's a writing competition. However, we are in this together. So we're a support group. So we're supporting each other as we're doing this. So it is a competition indeed, but it also is a chance for them to work together and kind of share their ideas. And now during our sessions, which I'll talk about in a little bit, we didn't have a whole lot of time. So I'm not sure how much they did afterwards, outside of the sessions, but. So this time we had 12 participants. We went from 7 to 12. This was high school and junior high school. So I was really happy with getting more participants and more girls signing up to do so. So it was great. We're really, really happy with that. So this was a little bit different how we had to do it, because before it was part of the curriculum. All students went through it as, I had time to go through and walk them through the step, and we spent basically one day a week from maybe June all the way through to October when we were working on getting everyone set up. But I also had these participants who were completely new to it and who weren't part of the regular advanced program. So I had to go through and set up ways to get them caught up basically in 30 days, what other students have been working on for several months. And that got really tricky because at this time, COVID was just destroying all the afternoon activities and clubs. Students were no longer allowed to stay after school. Basically, when school was out, they had to go home. So I was limited to only lunchtime to try to teach students how to write a book. So I had sessions several days a week. Some students went to all the sessions because they might not have caught something the first time. Some students only went to one session of the week. Students would be coming in late because it was during lunchtime. So if they're meeting a teacher, then they're going back and having a lunch, then trying to come back for a 15-minute workshop. It was really, really hectic. So I was really, really worried about how this was going to turn out, to be in all honesty. but we went through all the material, and the students, I gave lots of opportunities for them to come by and talk and to try to meet up with them. Other teachers from J3 were helping out as well. So overall, November writing started, and the book started off really, really slow. I was getting nervous because, again, some students, they only learned about writing from basically what they've read in X reading and how they've learned how to read the books. But also, that's pretty much it. There's no other exposure to it. So pretty much towards the end of the month, the word count started jumping up. And then by the end of the month, everyone reached their goals. Basically, I did not set any word count. Basically, write as much as you can. Just write a book. Have the start, have the plot, have everything that a book typically has. And that's all you need. So most of the books, some of the books were around 1,000 to 2,000 words was probably the average. Some books were about 800 words. One of the books was. Some even made it up to the upper thousands, 6,000, 5,000. And those are students that really got into it. And a lot of them were the J3 students. The junior high school third year students really took off with this. Had a lot, I guess they really got into it. Basically, December, we did the peer editing. It was a little bit different because I wanted all the students to do peer editing. But with the students that were not really, were not in the outside of the program that are coming in, basically I just suggested that they do peer grading, but we had no way to make sure that the papers are being exchanged. Most of the girls said that they did it. But regardless, after December, after winter break, the papers came to us and we went through and we looked at it anyways as well. So they had the peer editing, plus they had us, the teachers, to look at it. There were two of us that were working on helping them with their books. But they did really well. February came into publication. At this point here, we needed to get the books to X reading. So X reading can go through the process of getting them input. And Paul did a really quick job on this, and the books were up in probably like a week. I mean, really, they went up really quick. So then the next thing came up. Okay, March, online voting. How is this going to work? So we sat around and we were thinking about the best way to do this. And basically what it ended up being was a Google form we figured was the best way, because they did this Google update recently where, like, if you open up a Google form, you can go back, close that form, and then re-edit it. Whereas in the past, Google Forms, once you opened it, it would delete. So it wouldn't have been possible to do that. But luckily, this update just came out. So it's like, okay, this is a great way. We can put all the books on a Google form and then go through, Paul suggested the rating system that we had that he already uses for X reading because students and readers are used to it. So we did that. Plus we also did a comment section. So those who are reading the books can leave comments. A lot of I guess I'm getting ahead of myself real quick, but and then there was also a section where you would vote for your top 3 choices of a book. So now we have the form. It's like, okay, how am I going to get these results? How am I going to figure out, get all these numbers together? So basically, what we decided was to come up with a Google form, and then any judges would be weighted. So basically, the judge scores, I scored it as double, whereas with the regular students, then they were just, the scores were just taken in as they were. So we weighted the judges' scores a little bit, just so we had some, I guess just so it would work out better. Because we weren't sure how it would how well it would go over, especially with my students, because they had basically 1 month to go through and read the books. And this was the same time that the interim test was going on. So all in all, they literally had about two to 3 weeks that they could actually spend on reading these books for those who wanted to read the books. It wasn't mandatory, but they were asked to do it. And we had quite a few students, most again from the junior high school level, reading the books and giving their votes. But we also had the readers from all over the world too, which was amazing. We had readers from Mongolia and then from Middle East and from all over. It's just amazing. And then you can go back, and I was with the students, I was showing them, they could go back and they can see who was reading their books and where their books were being read from. And they were just getting, it was just amazing for them to see this. So we had all these people going in and voting for it, and it worked out really, really well. So basically how the voting was, it was 1 month, it was on X reading. We had some volunteer judges that Paul asked to help and participate with. Plus we had our students. And like I mentioned before, we decided to do a Google form. So we did a Google form, and it was accessed through a QR code or a direct link that was put into the back of the book. We started with the QR code first, but what happened was, if you're reading the book on the train or something like that, it's just impossible to use the QR reader. So if you had 2 devices, it's great. Then you can do it easily. You're reading on your computer, then you take your phone and you scan it, and then you go through it and you do the form on your phone. But that's not really normally the case. Usually it's just 1 device. We added the direct link. And from there, it kind of looked like this. So at the back of the book, it said, please rate this book. This book is part of a special writing competition for students at Darin Fugakuin, and use the QR code to vote on the book. And then we added the link as well, so they could go through and access the form. And then at the end, basically I downloaded all the information to Google Sheets. And then from there, I had to set up the formulas and the weightings. And basically all the ratings were added to the total, plus the votes for the best books were actually weighted a little bit. And then we had the judges that were weighted a little bit too, just so we can have just to show the level of importance in the ratings and things like that. Because it's often with ratings, you always tend to put a high rating on something, even if you didn't really like it. It's just second nature, especially with Japanese students. They don't want to be negative, so they'll give something a high rating. We did have some lower ratings, but for the most part, it was all high ratings. So that's why I had to weight the voting on the best book a little bit, just to balance that out. So with that, I would export it to the Google Sheets. From there, all the comments came in, all the email addresses, I would separate it, do a sort, and then I could separate the students and then put them on in a table. And then I had all the teachers, judges, they were put in a separate table. And then I had all the comments at the end, where I just took all the comments, and then I just issued for all the writers. I took all the comments and then I just put them on a separate sheet, and then I gave the students all the comments so they could read. Of course, some of the comments that I didn't feel were quite appropriate, I omitted that from giving those to the students. But for the most part, even the very, very, I don't know what's strict or kind of severe comments, if I felt they were good, I gave them to the students, because what's being said was something the student could use when they're writing, if they're doing it again the following year. So we ended up having 5 books at the end of the contest. We had the top 5 winners that were the judges' votes. Then we also had the student votes. I separated it into 2 ratings because there were some student choices that were not in the judges list. So I wanted to make sure that that student who won the student competition was recognized too. uniquely, book number one and book number the third place. Actually, I made a mistake here. These books should be switched. Second place and Beyond the Dream should be flip-flopped. Sorry about that. But basically, Memory from the Past and Bloom were first and third place on both of the student votes and on the judges' votes. So there was the second place that was different versus the judge and the students. So I had to go through and I did something separate and special for her as well. Now, something I forgot to mention was the covers. All the students designed their own covers for these. Some students, for example, Memory from the Past, she did this drawing herself. It's a hand-drawn picture. Other students took photos with their cell phones or photos they had that they liked, and they just attached it. Others went through and found some of the non-copyright images and posted those. But we had some students, like in the case of the student choice for number 2, the cover was designed by another student. And so they were working together. At the beginning of November, I asked the students if they wanted to design their own covers to do so. But I also reached out to some of the art clubs, like the anime club and the regular art club, to see if they wanted to participate. Most of those girls were too busy on other projects. They said they didn't really have time for it, but the girls said that they wanted to go out and find their own animators for their books. So some of the covers that we had were, pair work. So one girl designed the cover, and then one girl would write the book. And in each of the books, it said written by, illustrated by. So for the covers. So one of the books actually had pictures in the text that were done to kind of make it look more like a graded reader. So there'd be pictures in various places. So she was working with her partner, and she was creating images to put into the book. So that worked out really well too. So the top 5 books are on X Reading now. You can still read them today if you wanted to. At the end of the year, we had a award ceremony. So winners were recognized at the term end award ceremony. And even the book where the animator was in here, the animator was recognized as well, because she was indeed part of the book. So everyone got recognized. These are in the top 3. So student's choice and judge's choice. And then you'll see here, and I have a copy of the winning book here. So Memory from the Past. So the winner was given an actual printed copy of the book. And it's a very, very nice book that Paul had created with his resources. You can't really, it's blurring out, but they have their own book. And the winner was given, basically, she ended up with 19 copies because the school wanted copies and she didn't have enough people to give 20 copies to. So she was giving them out she gave a copy to the library. The PR department kept a copy of the book. And then I kept a copy of the book too. And my copy is special because it is autographed by the writer. Yes, I have a nice autograph here. And I'm very proud of. And it was funny, when I asked her to autograph the book, she was just like dumbfounded on how do I autograph a book? And it was just hilarious the way she was just looking at me. I'm like, it's your masterpiece. You signed it any way you like. So she looked at it a little bit, and I gave her a piece of paper, and she started maybe doing some cursive signatures. And then she's like, I don't know. And then she just took it, and she took the pen and just wrote in kanji block print of her name. But it's very cool. I was very happy with that. More great news. Even the remaining books, the remaining 7 books, although they're not quite the level for X Reading, There's still very, very good books, and Rob Waring has is allowing me to post those on his ER Central. So they're going to join the previous year's students. So we'll have the student writing section will expand by about 7 more copies, which is really, really cool. So even though they finished their books, they're not forgotten. They'll still be able to be observed by the students and for the future. So that's really, really nice. So all their work is still going to be available for them to see and to share and to get the word out there. This year, basically things have changed a little bit. We're going to be so I've already started. So October preparation will be done after school and workshops. Yay! No more COVID regulations at the moment. So November we'll be doing the writing. I'll actually be able to work better with the how to write the books. And then we'd still be doing the self-editing, rewrites, publication, and online voting for March. At the moment, things could possibly change, but this is my timeline that I'm working with at the moment for the students. From this year, it is no longer part of the curriculum. It has been removed, and now it is just a special elective course for a Saturday program that we do at the school. And students who wanted to challenge this signed up. And at the moment, I have 7 students who are in my elective course, and those students have already started working on their short novel. I've already gone through the basic elements of literature, and they did a short story in over July, and then we have when we come back, we're going to start working on the novel. And then I'll also be doing, like last year, opening up to any interested students, and then hopefully we'll have more than 12. Hopefully. When we did the awards ceremony, a lot of students were like, oh, wow, I could hear it in the audience. A lot of the students were kind of envious of the students who participated. So maybe that will trigger them to participate next year. I have no idea, but I hope so. Last year, Rob Waring was nice enough to do a lunch with an author. So I would hope to do something like that again. And we had really good turnout for the students. They really enjoyed that. Writer circles I will be doing as well, editing workshops, things like that. So moving forward. Some of the challenges were basically getting students on board. It was really difficult to get the students on board. When I initially set up the invitations, I had like 50 something students reply saying they're interested. And then when I started doing the workshops, I only had about 12 students that actually showed up. So maybe from this year, I think there will probably be more because they're more familiar with how it works and that it's, the process and with X reading. And then I had a real difficult time finding the right time for workshops. So hopefully that will be nailed now. I can do after school workshops, and that'll give at least 30 minutes to 40 minutes of extra time that I can teach them on book writing. And then like right now in my creative writing the creative writing program that I'm doing, it was open to all students. So one of the classes I have students that are basically high school first year and junior high school third year, which is not too bad. There's not a big of a gap, not so much of a gap there. But in the other class, I have a student that's in junior high school second year. She loves reading. She's really, really high in her reading words and on X reading, and she really likes books. And the other girl is a senior high school second year. So when I'm teaching the class, there's just such the gap between the high school second year and the junior high school second year. So trying to keep it interesting for the high school second year student, but also not to overload the junior high school second year student, because these are regular students. Everyone is a regular student. There is no advanced program this year with it. So everyone's levels are very, very different. And I think that's going to be the biggest challenge. And then, of course, getting the word out there and commitment, things like that. Yeah, basically, it was a great experience, and it gives the students a once in a lifetime opportunity, sometimes twice in a lifetime, because one girl said she was going to do it again this year, and hopefully she will. But and it pushes them out of their comfort zone, building confidence and motivating them to use English. So that's why I've been so, I really like this program. I'm really pushing it at the school, but I think it's been really good. And I guess that's it, really. The rest is just questions. If anyone has any questions. I know I went really fast and I got quite nervous and I choked up on my words a bit. So